Welcome back to another PCM Hockey Podcast. Today is episode 9. I know it has been a while since we have recorded an episode since Daryl Sutter was hired there for the Calgary Flames, and the Oilers were going through a bit of problems, losing 3 straight to the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think that was around that time. Anyways, it's been a pretty busy time since we recorded the last episode of the podcast. Now the Oilers are almost the top of the North Division, which is incredibly weird because we thought Toronto was the juggernaut of the North Division. Also, Calgary Flames, they've been doing okay with the new coach there in Daryl Sutter. We're going to be getting into that as they just lost their game tonight here on Monday, March 22nd. They lost their game to the Ottawa Senators 2-1, and we're going to be getting to Calvin here very quickly. But let's just jump right into it. And let's jump into the first topic of today's episode, which is what's going on in Calgaryville. Because today they lost 2-1 to the Ottawa Senators. And not just that, it's the Ottawa Senators. You're going to lose some games to them. But this game, they lost to Philip Gustafsson, who made his debut and won his first game in the NHL against the Calgary Flames. We'll send this one to Calvin. And also, how are you doing there, bud?
I'm doing good. It's nice to get a podcast recorded finally. I know you and I have both been pretty busy with school. We got less than a month left, so that's pretty wild. So it's good to get some hockey talk in between there, some de-stressing. But one thing that isn't de-stressing me right now is the Calgary Flames, because I don't know what's going on. Their inconsistencies are continuing to show their ugly head, and I don't really think we can blame the coaching anymore. We had a great start with Daryl Sutter. We won 3 straight, which was amazing, right? It's like, holy crap, the Messiah's here. The Flames are going to turn their season around. Yeah, okay, maybe we can lose a couple games. But, hey, a 3-game win streak, we only had one of those. And that was, almost at the beginning of the season. Or it was the beginning of the season, I think. We won 3, and then we went on a 5-game break and then lost a couple on the way back from that. But, right now, am I going to want to watch more Flames games? With this inconsistency, I really don't know. It's been a struggle. It's just hard to watch them play. And right now, as you were saying tonight, Ottawa Senators are still a basement team in the North. Not by as much as everyone thought, because they're getting wins here or there against good teams. They're showing up every night, even if they get blown out. It's just an odd night. But they've been going through goalie troubles right now. Okay, so they're not. Their starter goalie, Murray, who they got in the offseason, paid lots of money to, hurt. Okay, back up, hurt. Third string goalie, hurt. So who do they start? They start their 4th string goalie, first career NHL game. You think, Flames fan, oh, this is going to be a piece of cake. We're going to be able to open up the offense a little bit here on a goalie that's not really proven, hasn't seen much NHL action before, so, we'll take advantage of that, get in his head. Nope. We peppered him with shots. I think the Flames had almost 38 shots or something around there. A lot of shots on goal. But their offense was absolutely dry. The only one spot there was a nice breakaway from Gaudreau. Lucic sprung him right at the blue line, and Gaudreau was able to take it in and snap. That was Gaudreau's first, even strength goal since February the 11th. Over a month. Gaudreau players. He's supposed to be performing every night. Not, let's take a month to score a even strength goal. And the same for Monahan. He's supposed to be our top center, and he's really not even close to that. And our depth was playing amazing again. Lucic had another great game. You cannot say Lucic has not been playing well for the Flames this year. He's honestly having one of his better seasons from what I can remember in the last few years. So people who are saying Lucic was a big problem, no, absolutely not. His contract, yes, different story. But Lucic's play this year has really shown that he still belongs in the NHL. Yeah, not as a second liner, but he can really help out with those 3rd and 4th lines, bringing depth to the team. And to continue this, it's amazing to see how the top paid players don't show up on a regular basis, yet the players that aren't paid are playing for their contract. They're playing for their money. They're trying to stay on the team. They're trying to prove to Daryl Sutter they belong there. But then these higher guys like Gaudreau, I don't think he said publicly, yeah, he loves Calgary and wants to stay in Calgary. I don't really think that. And it shows in his play. He just doesn't care, I don't think, because the coaching change hasn't seen Gaudreau play any different. And it seems, excuse me, I'm going to cough right now. No COVID, by the way. COVID free. That's not a COVID cough. But anyway, so you know what? To finish my rant, I think I'm going to segue back to you because speaking of COVID, they canceled the Oilers Habs game tonight due to COVID protocol, and that was the first one in the North Division, and that was going to be a big game for us Flames fans because what team's in front of us? Montreal, and yeah, they have a few games in hand. But they're going to play the next 3 games against Edmonton, and Edmonton's on a hot streak right now. So as Flames fans, we were hoping, okay, we got Ottawa for 2 games. So let's take 4 points from Ottawa. Easy. And then to add insult to injury, the Oilers and Habs are now in COVID protocol. So there's no games there. So we're not gaining any ground because now we have another game played where the Habs already had games at hand. And now we can't, and we lost. We didn't even get a point. It didn't go to overtime. The Flames tied it with like 5 minutes left in the third period, and then a minute and a half later, they let Ottawa score with like 2 minutes left. And the Flames have been fighting for like 55 minutes in that game just to tie it. Like, oh, it's so frustrating. I'm sorry I'm losing it, but it's so obnoxious to see that. Other teams just obliterate Ottawa, and the Flames have the darndest goddamn time trying to put the puck in the net against a mediocre young team that has little NHL experience. When our team has so many freaking players that have played in the NHL longer than probably some of the guys on the Ottawa team have even been like playing hockey for. It's just so goddamn frustrating. And I will end my rant there.
Yeah, it's been pretty frustrating to say the least, being a Flames fan. Even looking at some of the analytics, that top pairing, like from what it used to be between Anderson and Gio, they've kind of taken a little bit of a drop. Anderson offensively, a little bit defensively. Gio's just kind of, he's been there, but you could see that that decrease in his game just because he's getting up there in age. He's getting older and older and is just not able to do the stuff that he used to be able to do there for the Calgary Flames. Now Hanifin and Tanev has been a whole different story. They've been amazing, but the game, it's unexcusable to only score 1 goal against the Ottawa Senators when most teams are able to score 4 or 5 goals a night against the Ottawa Senators, even more, and Calgary wasn't able to pull themselves together and show up big time when needed, right? We've been kind of seeing this all year with the facing off against the Ottawa Senators. They just haven't been stepping up. Like, how can you lose a game 1-6 against the Ottawa Senators and 1-5, and then the next game absolutely have a blowout and you dominate the Ottawa Senators? It just seems like what you were saying, inconsistent. And that's what we're seeing from the Calgary Flames. And when you get stuck in that inconsistent hockey, you're stuck at 500. And there's basically really nothing you could do but change up the personality of your team and the personnel. And I think that's what the Calgary Flames have to do. They have to go with a new team. Gaudreau and Monahan are not the squad that you could rely on anymore. And hope for the best for the Flames there. And for the other side, the postponement of the game, the Canadians had 2 players get announced that they were positive with COVID. And I was I was pretty upset. I was like, oh man, I wanted to watch the Oilers game tonight because I just finished up a pretty long shoot this past weekend, which was a lot of fun, and I was looking forward to watching the Oilers dominate again, as they've been absolutely crazy good since we lost that series against the Toronto Maple Leafs. We had a 4-game win streak, beating the Calgary Flames and then the Ottawa Senators 3 times. We lost 2 in a row against the Canucks and Flames, but we have kicked ass against the Flames, the Jets, and we were hoping to go on a nice road trip to Montreal and Toronto and to hope to continue that success, as right now we're tied with Toronto. They do have a few games in hand, but we're in a perfect spot right now here in Edmonton land. I gotta say, I'm pretty happy. I've been seeing, Connor McDavid's been playing a level above everyone. I mean, if you watch this guy play, I mean, you're going to be impressed no matter what. You're watching some greatness out there with Connor McDavid right now. 60 points in 34 games. If we played a full 82-game season, he was projected to have 141 points. That is nuts. That hasn't happened since, back in the late 90s, 80s. Early 90s, I mean. But you haven't seen something like that in a long time. Kucherov and Joe Thornton and Crosby have hit around 120 points, but no one has ever hit in the salary cap era 140 points. And I'm excited to see what the future entails for Connor McDavid, because he's been absolutely insane. And if the NHL.com thinks Patrick Kane is MVP in the NHL, you're out of your mind, NHL. That is absolutely stupid for you to say that Kane has been better than McDavid. McDavid deserves to be the MVP right now. I would hand him that trophy just because of the fact of how nuts he has been in these past couple of games and to the success of the Edmonton Oilers. He's really been making this team a winning culture. That's something that the Oilers have not seen in a while, and something that we're not seeing with the Calgary Flames and the Buffalo Sabres. You're not seeing a winning culture there. You're not seeing, when a fan enjoys their team play hockey, you're seeing a team that is smiling out there and having fun and, looking like they're not miserable to be out on that ice and miserable to be in Edmonton. You're seeing a bunch of teammates really happy to be playing all on the same team. And it's just absolutely amazing to see. As we'll get on to the next topic of the show, as we also got Mark Jones on the show, and we haven't talked about him in the first 10 minutes of the show. So we're gonna send it over to him to talk about the Vancouver Canucks, who have been pretty damn good recently. They've been winning a couple games. Thatcher Demko has been absolutely insane. Even I was seeing him in like kind of the best goalie right now in the North Division, and I would have to agree with a lot of people. I think Thatcher Demko has been the absolutely carrier of the Vancouver Canucks right now. So I'll send it over to Mark to talk about the Canucks' success in the past couple of weeks.
Well, I'll get to the Canucks. First of all, before I ramble on, I want to make sure you can hear me, because we've been having some connection problems. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you perfectly.
So first of all, we better just make sure we get this clear. To quote Sportsnet, just to go to the Montreal-Edmonton thing first, quote, "We don't know if either Kotkaniemi or Armia in fact have COVID-19. So we may want to clarify that or edit it or whatever, because they were just in close contact possibly with someone who recently tested positive, or if their own tests were accurate. We've seen false positives happen everywhere, including in Montreal with Toffoli, et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of badly written here, but just I was quoting a large part of what Sportsnet has on an article accredited to them. So just maybe double check that. So back to, with that said, Edmonton, and we wish the best to them. But back to Vancouver. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, as we record this, I guess it's about maybe 3/4 of the way through the second. I don't have the time up in the moment on the Vancouver-Winnipeg game. Vancouver was having the edge of play, and then Winnipeg got a goal in the first, and that's the only goal so far. Demko, from what I've been able to see, there's about 5 minutes left as we say this here in the second. Still 1-0 Winnipeg. And Vancouver has gotten some great goaltending from Demko. He's showing what he did last year in the bubble and when he had to step up. And, credit that they've got him, because without him, they would probably be down in the range of numbers of, where Ottawa's at right now. And there's still a lot of hockey left to go. And, I'm looking at these numbers right now and, tell me I'm wrong. But with Toronto's, with Toronto's struggles right now, to paraphrase Matt Sakaris from the former TSN 1040 here, and Blake Price, tell me I'm wrong. I'm going to say that there's anything's possible in this division. Other than I wouldn't put money on Ottawa making the playoffs, but the other 6 teams, anything could happen. Literally anything. Because if you look at it, I'm having some trouble getting onto NHL.com right now. For some reason, it just keeps telling me there's an error through the app, but I'm going to try it another way. I believe there's 8 points right now from 1st to 6th in the North Division. Yeah. And, Toronto, I mean, okay, sure. If you were probably a betting person, you would say they're in. But there is nothing to say that that's an automatic because, I just got the standings to come up for me. And, I mean, they're at 42. Calgary's at 33. There's 9 points with tonight's action still underway. Toronto's got 24 games left. Vancouver at 35 has 21 games left. So there's certainly some games in hand like Toronto has. But my point is this, people keep wanting to say, well, Vancouver, there's no way they're going to make it. There's no way they're going to make it. And they were saying that even a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And I don't know where that was coming from because you look at the numbers and even realistically, sure, someone could say Ottawa right now, oh, well, they can make the playoffs. Mathematically, yes. Realistically, they're 10 points back of Vancouver, and Vancouver's still outside the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I guess even there, though, I mean, anything is possible. And you were talking about Ottawa winning tonight over Calgary. That's been the problem. I mean, Ottawa, other than the first 3 games that Vancouver played, I think Vancouver's played 5 against them now. Vancouver has won them all, but those games, Ottawa pushed the last 2 games. Ottawa grabbed a point out of those recent 2 games against Vancouver. They shouldn't be taken lightly. Yes, they're a young team, but they have some pride. And so I know I've come off topic a little bit, but I just wanted to say that, it shows that, the solid goaltending for Vancouver has allowed them to claw their way back into this thing. I mean, going 7-2-1 in their last 10 games. I mean, there's probably the majority of fans or NHL fans out there that basically had written Vancouver off. And, there's still a lot of hockey left in this game tonight. And they're just right now not having any success putting anything past. I don't know who's in for Winnipeg tonight. But, the point is Vancouver, I think they always had in mind they signed Holtby as the veteran presence. I think the last game against Montreal that he was in and he lost, I don't think a lot of people can really blame or the experts aren't blaming him because, if you're going to have your player in front of you, then have them do something. And unfortunately, I think maybe that was just a thing of you're not used to playing in front of him again. And unfortunately, they probably caused some screens that cost, a few goals against for Vancouver. So overall, I think they're going to ride Demko as much as they can. I think you'll see them in these 2 games against Winnipeg. And then Vancouver's gets their first long break, or maybe the only long break. They're off now for 6 days after Wednesday. And that'll allow the standings, I believe, to even out a little bit, notwithstanding this Edmonton-Montreal situation now, which is going to mean some catch-up's going to happen. Because, now after tonight, Vancouver is going to have played 5 more games than Montreal. So that's a potential swing of 10 points right there, potentially. And we'll just have to see how it's all going to come out in the wash from a Vancouver standpoint. But, I mean, it's nice to see Vancouver. They're within 2 points of Montreal. They could technically, for the moment, with a win tonight of any kind, they tie Montreal and for 4th place, notwithstanding all those games in hand for Montreal.
Vancouver, I think you'll definitely get the games back after the series against the Winnipeg Jets here because you guys are going to be getting a nice week off and then having a game on the 31st and then getting another couple days off before you guys go up against the Oilers on a nice back-to-back, and then it's a bunch of games from there. So I think that's when you'll definitely be catching up on a lot of the games played. But honestly, anything can happen right now in this division. The Canadiens have been struggling as well. They haven't been playing their greatest hockey right now, only having 37 points. Vancouver's only 2 points back. Tons games on hand, but they do have time. Vancouver's actually made some moves as well picking up Jimmy VC and Travis Boyd as well. Just some nice depth players. I think those guys are honestly better than what you have in Eriksson and Beagle. So I think VC, who's actually been playing on the top line there for the Vancouver Canucks, he's a great complementary player. Definitely not a top line player, but since Vancouver's been dealing with a lot of injuries out of the late, I've known that Pettersson's still been out of the lineup, which is just huge bummer for the guys, and Pearson as well. So Vancouver Canucks a little bit weak on the the winger side of things right now. So picking up a VC and a Travis Boyd will definitely help out the team depth wise. But they are starting to become like the Vancouver Maple Leafs here very soon with the amount of Maple Leafs that they're bringing into the team.
Well, I was going to say, I guess because Calgary loved to pick up all Vancouver's, former players or what have you, whether it be Markstrom, Tanev, Levo, I believe it was.
Yeah.
So I guess Vancouver's trying to do, the same thing. Oh, we'll just take everybody from Toronto, so it's kind of that. But credit to Vancouver and the boys for coming together. I mean, yeah, people forget they're doing all this without Pettersson, the former Calder. He did win the Calder Trophy, I'm pretty sure. Did he not, the year that he was eligible? I think he did.
Who was that?
I mean, anyway, Pettersson.
I think he did, yeah. He won the Calder that year. Yeah.
One of their top players. I mean, a past All-Star when they had those games and stuff. I mean, Pettersson's definitely a huge part of the team, and they're doing all this without him in the lineup, with this undisclosed injury again, which the protocols before there were COVID protocols, they never talk about injuries really anymore. So it's just, the point is that'll be a plus whenever he can. I think he's about a week away, and we'll have to see what they can do tonight, because obviously by the time this airs, the game will be done. But right now they've just put 40 minutes in the books, and Vancouver's trailing by 1. So, I mean, there's a big 20 minutes coming up, and obviously Winnipeg's going to push here to for the most part, I think, have had Vancouver's number this year and for the last number of years, and we'll just have to see what Vancouver can do here in this final 20 here at home, where it doesn't really have as much impact for any team right now because you have no fans, but it's still their home barns. So there you go.
Yeah, it's been a pretty entertaining week, I think, not for Calgary fans. I'm sorry, Calvin, but it's been pretty rough in the Flame land.
Just kick me while I'm down. Kick me while I'm down.
Hey, man, the amount of people that kicked me while I was down, you want to go? Hey, man, I was losing for years. I was the one that was on the floor. People were kicking dirt at me constantly, like, oh, look at you. You've had 3 in a row years winning the draft lottery, and I'm like, oh wow, you're a big tough guy, jeez. So
at least the Oilers can say they won a draft lottery, because the Flames have not just been mediocre this year, but mediocre in the franchise's entire existence. But that's just my hot take.
That's the thing too. Like, if you honestly look at it, when you guys were sort of rebuilding there and you drafted Sam Bennett, like, every time you guys have like a rebuild and you try to restock your shelves, it's horrible. You barely restock the shelves. You stock the shelves with these bums. Like, you had Jankowski and Bennett, who has been absolutely nothing for the Calgary Flames, and there was a ton of good surrounding players around him during that draft as well. And I think, honestly, it is time to, take her slow here with the Calgary Flames. But I know how Trev Lindley works, and he will continue to push this team past its limit. And I feel like the Calgary Flames, sooner or later, are just going to get themselves stuck in a rivet, and it's just not going to go very well.
I think Tree Living only has one more season to prove himself.
I think so, too.
I think he's been given the rest of this season. He brought in Sutter, so that kind of gave him some more life. But I think if it's another mediocre...
No, I think he just cut out there, but
is very much so on the line.
Yeah, I think so too. I think even this offseason, honestly, if the team really does go bad, even without the help
sorry to interrupt you, but I swear to God, if they fire Tree Living and make Sutter GM and coach again, oh my God!
I'm sorry, rip your team.
I think Sutter, at this stage of the game, in my opinion, he wouldn't do that. He would say, no, I'm here to coach. And, I don't think, he would do that. And just to add to that, if I can just jump in, I was just going to say the gauge I've always heard is a coach or a GM gets maybe 2 coaches. Well, you think about it, he's already had, he inherited Hartley, got rid of Hartley, brought in Gullickson, got rid of Gullickson. He had Ward / Peters.
Yeah.
Okay, Peters, the situation was troubling. Peters steps down, he has Ward. He's on to, if you take Hartley out, he's on to his 3rd coach now. That's probably going to be the limit. If they don't, and it's not to say it's going to be coaching, like credit to Sutter, but yeah, they had good push lift out of that right off the bat. But if they, for some reason, don't meet whatever their expectations are this year, I think Treliving is in a questionable situation. I mean, I'm not going to say he's gone, but I'm going to say it's questionable because I'm not even sure the ownership structure there anymore. I mean, wasn't Ken King quite prominent at least in a and I think we lost Ken King, did we not? You can edit this if I've got it wrong. Is Ken King still with us?
Yeah, actually I think it would be almost a year ago. Close to.
Passed, right?
Yeah, because I remember that, like, we were still on campus at school at the time, and now it's been about a year since we got kicked off campus, and it was around the same time because there was just a lot going on. And then to add insult, Ken King passed away, which is another sad thing for the city of Calgary. And so it's been about a year since I think Ken King passed away.
And I'm not sure even the structure, like how the ownership works in Calgary, to be perfectly honest. Like, I'm honestly not sure. Like, I don't know. Is it multiple owners? I don't even know how that works.
It's a group of owners. Yeah.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, King, I think, was quite prominent. He had, heritage there in terms of being involved with the franchise. So I think there definitely could be some, it was Burke that came in as president of hockey operations and I believe brought in Treliving when he got rid of Feaster. If I'm remembering the sequence here, not being a huge Calgary fan, but just remembering some of that. So there could be some definite changes that could happen if this thing goes south for Calgary. And yes, as we record this, I'm seeing the Calgary-Ottawa highlights right now. So if you're not watching, you might not get it because I'm on the Vancouver game and you don't get the Vancouver game. So yes, I'm just seeing the highlights, or as you would say, lowlights right now. So.
There weren't even any highlights to talk about. I wouldn't even say there were lowlights. They're just
there was a lot of the Ottawa goalie doing
play to the outside.
What's that? Sorry?
Well, I was just gonna say there weren't many highlights because for the Flames, they came out shooting the lights out. And yeah, they got 36 shots, but I think if I went and looked at a shot chart, the actual high danger scoring chances they had probably weren't far and few in between because, again, they were just doing their usual cycle it to the outside, keep it to the and get someone in close to the net, but then never happens because by that point in time, the defense has already clogged up the front of the net, so there's no shot to be had, and it just gets deflected or blocked. Anyway, sorry, that's just been the Flames' MO, I guess, every freaking game, and it never works. That's why they're so mediocre. Yeah. Sorry.
I think back on the Treliving conversation there, I'm pretty sure even last year, last offseason, you always kind of hear rumors of like GMs on the hot seat, and I feel like Treliving, this is, he put up a great season there in 2018-19, and they haven't been able to replicate it. Last year they struggled. They weren't even in the playoffs to start the year for the Calgary Flames during the 2019-20 season, and they only started doing better when Jeff Ward came in as the head coach. And now this year you're kind of seeing the same thing where, you've seen your team struggle. You get in a new coach, the team has done, great right off the get-go and now has just kind of shelled right back in. I don't know what's necessarily next for the Calgary Flames, but I feel like they need new faces and a new team. And I feel like that's what they need right now. The team is just getting really stale, and it kind of looks like that out there as well. The team is just not looking as per usual. But at least it's not like the Buffalo Sabres right now, as we're going to get into our little segment of what's going on in Buffalo. As now officially, I think the last podcast we made, we were talking about them having 9 in a row losses. I think it was.
I think it was 11. I think it was 11.
It was 11. Now
I
it's
believe so.
Now it's 14.
Yes.
Wow.
We need some theme music for this. I know you're not going to throw any in. I'm just hypothetically saying because I don't know how long it's going to be till Buffalo gets anything going on in their favor because this is just getting ridiculous now.
Eichel, Hall getting injured. Could they possibly tie up Pittsburgh Penguins for the biggest winless streak in the NHL with 18? They're only 4 away right now.
Well, it's quite possible. And I was going to say this. The only thing this reminds me of is, for the short 4 or 5 years Vancouver had NBA basketball, and that's a whole nother chapter that Vancouver was bleeped over on. It was ridiculous losing streaks, and it was just. But the difference is I don't know what the problem is because they've got, in theory, at least on paper, some degree of talent in Buffalo. So I'm at a loss. I mean, the coach is out, so now they brought in an interim, and I don't even know. Who is it is it Granato? Is it any relation to Tony Granato? I have no idea who that even is. That's the Buffalo coach, an interim coach, but they went with whoever they've got there. And I mean, I don't know. It just seems there's a real mess of lack of chemistry there for whatever the reason.
Yeah, it's almost like, I was watching a video and the guy was talking about how you get a losing culture. And when you have a losing culture, it's like a cancer that just never goes away. And that's what the Buffalo Sabres are dealing with right now. You look at the past couple of years, like this has just not been this year for the Buffalo Sabres. This has been coming for years, right? You look at the deals that they made. Ryan O'Reilly, right? They were forced to trade him away because he had a big bonus coming and he needed a new contract, so they dumped him off to St. Louis. They've done the exact same thing where they overpaid Jeff Skinner because the Pegulas wanted to overpay Jeff Skinner. And right there, the name that I just said, the owners and the Pegulas, they love, I don't know what the hell they do, but man, they have too much control over this team right now. Hiring a inexperienced GM like Kevin Adams was dumb to say. Kevin Adams has his hands full. No GM really wants to take this job. Who does? Who wants to take a job that, seeing this team die, you're seeing so many bad contracts, right? You have Eichel, Skinner, and Okposo almost all locked up for $27 million, and they are barely even producing. Okposo just scored his first goal in over a year. Like, this is bad. This is real bad. And, Taylor Hall is only going to be good there for a nice lottery pick for the Buffalo Sabres right now. And they're doing the worst year to fail like this because this is kind of like, this draft is talked about pretty kind of skeptical because of the fact that right now we're not really able to scout our players very well. So going into this draft, a lot of GMs are going to be blind. And this is going to be probably a year where the Buffalo Sabres are going to have a first-round pick. And who are you going to pick? Who wants to play here in Buffalo right now? What do you even do next to fix up this club? Like, we're seeing so many colliding thoughts with this team. It feels like it's just like something you just threw at the table. You grabbed a thing of sand and you just threw it all over the table. And that's what you got. It's like a pile of puke, and that's what I'm seeing with the Buffalo Sabres right now. And it's honestly disgusting. All their players are running for a PGA green jacket, for Christ's sakes. Everyone on that team is. I mean, Rasmus Dahlin is probably going to get the green jacket this year. I'll send this one over to Calvin to talk a little bit more about the Sabres as well, because it's baffling what's going on there.
Well, as Mark compared them to the Vancouver Grizzlies, I'm going to take it to a different league and compare them to the Cleveland Browns of the NFL. It's kind of seeming like what the Buffalo Sabres are and how their franchise has been just since inception, really. I kind of see them again, like I said about the Flames, just a mediocre franchise that hasn't Buffalo doesn't have a Stanley Cup though, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I mean, they kind of got screwed over the Brett Hall.
Well, look, the Flames got screwed over their second, and of a second cup, and I'm still considering them mediocre because, like, okay, so they had the glory years in the late '80s for a few seasons, and then they had a couple seasons. So basically, the Flames have only been a real powerhouse team for 7 years of their total existence as a franchise, which is now 41 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I can see that parallel to Buffalo, how like they've been around since the 70s, I believe. Yeah,
I think so.
Hopefully my
Buffalo
expansion knowledge serves me right. Maybe Mark.
Buffalo,
Mark.
Buffalo came in the same year as the Canucks. They're an expansion with 1970.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Right. Because they just a couple of years ago had their 50th gold jersey, whatever, to celebrate, and even that was just bland, meh. You've been in the league for 50 years. Like, do a better job of like being like, yeah, we've been here this long. But I guess they were too embarrassed because they don't have anything to show for being in the league for 50 years. So, I can't really speak to the on ice play because, of course, they're not in the North Division, so I'm not paying attention to who they're playing and when. I just guess I'm just paying to the social medias every time it's like, and the streak gets longer, and they're getting closer to the overall highest losing streak in the league. And actually, them having lost their 14th straight ties a franchise record.
Mm-hmm.
So they've lost 14 straight games before. It's not the first time. They're tying their franchise record at 14 games.
Mm-hmm.
That is just wild to think about.
It really is. It's baffling, really. Like, even as an Oilers fan, like I remember like these bad losing streaks. You know, I don't remember anything as bad as what the Buffalo Sabres are going through right now. It's bad. I mean, you look at the past recent histories. The last time a team has hit like 15, I think 14 or 15 in a row games, was Pittsburgh and the Arizona Coyotes. It was when Arizona drafted Blake Wheeler in the draft, and when Pittsburgh drafted Evgeny Malkin. Now, I don't know if Buffalo's going to find that next big player for their team, but I mean, we've seen it before. Buffalo has picked Casey Middlestad and so many players that have just been honestly ruined in Buffalo land, and it's rough to see. And I'm sad for Dylan Cousins, the guy who played great in World Juniors, is now having to suffer there in Buffalo. It sucks, especially even Jack Eichel, man. Like, you don't want to see any of these players play bad. They're good players. It's just not the squad that they should be playing at right now. It's ugly there in Buffalo land, and I hope for the best for them. Otherwise, in the North Division, we'll talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs right quickly as well. We'll go over them right quickly because they've been struggling over the past couple games. Losing to Ottawa. I'm pretty sure, Ottawa, they lost a game to. Winnipeg, they lost a couple games to. Vancouver, they've really been on sort of a losing streak. They've been 2-6 since the sweep against the Edmonton Oilers. So what's going on in Toronto? I like, this is kind of a weird, watching Frederik Andersen right now playing the way that he is playing. He's playing not very good out there for the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's weird. I'll send this one off to Calvin and talk a little bit about the Maple Leafs. And also, Maple Leafs fans, McDavid is tied up with Matthews for goal scoring race. And you said Matthews was going to hit 50 and 50. Joke's on you.
Okay. Get off your high horse, Payton. We all know McDavid is a hockey god. You say it every week.
I kind of have to.
Okay, but before I dive into the Toronto talks, just quickly, I pulled up statistics about the Sabres and their losing streaks. 5 times they've lost more than 10 games in a row.
Jesus.
5 times. And that's how many of those are within the last 10 years? Looks like 3 of those have been in the last 10 years. That's not a good sign at all. Not one bit. Anyways, no. I just wanted to throw that stat out there. The Buffalo is just kind of embarrassing. But for Toronto, they're getting a bit of goalie controversy on their hands because Frederik Andersen has just been mediocre this year. He's usually in the talks for goalie of the year most seasons that he's been a part of the Leafs organization. And this year he's just kind of middle of the pack. He hasn't really been standing out. I mean, Marc-Andre Fleury right now is and Andrei Vasilevsky, those two look like they're probably running away with goalie of the year. It'll be a close one. But yeah, in Toronto, they're getting a goalie controversy. And I mean, they're used to that. But this time it's not who's going to be our starting goalie. Well, it is who's going to be their starting goalie, but they're not trying to find the next starting goalie. This time it's, well, our backup has won like every game he's played so far, and like has an amazing goals against average. And I did see Sportsnet pulled up a stat on it earlier today before the Flames game started, but I didn't quite catch the numbers. But it is pretty amazing to see what their backup's doing compared to Anderson.
He has like a shutout streak, I think, right now going on too, because he's won. I think he's gotten a shutout in the past 2 games that he's played in right now. So he is doing pretty damn well to start off the season
and
this year.
He was injured too.
Yeah,
so he came back from injury. So that was another thing for the Flames. They're facing a backup goalie who comes back from injury, and then we get shut out. Like, do we just not like playing against teams' backups and we just mail it in? I don't know. That's another question for another time, because I've ranted enough about my damn team and we're talking about the Leafs. Sorry. Back on track here. And then because of this little mini goalie controversy and because Anderson's just been mediocre, the Leafs are losing a bit of their grasp on the North Division. Because if we had talked about this a few weeks ago like we did, it was looking like Toronto was going to run away with it. But then they went on a 6-game losing skid, or they only won one of their last 7, however many games. And now it's pretty close. They have a couple games at hand against the Oilers, but they are tied in points right now. And I'm sure the Oilers would have. I was thinking they were going to win against Montreal tonight, so that could have added to the closing the gap. And Toronto, they've skidded a little bit. I don't think. Well, I mean, it's tight for those top 3 spots. We'll see where they end up, but I think their biggest issue right now is their goaltending. They need more consistency from Anderson, but then they also have their backup to rely on, which is good.
Yeah, I've been hearing like a couple things about Anderson being injured, which has kind of been, the storyline here with the Maple Leafs so far is injuries. You know, Matthews, I've been hearing that his wrist has been bugging him, and that's why he has kind of been on a drought. Tavares, they're paying him $11 million. He's still doing very well, but you know, paying $11 million to a player, you're expecting, you know, to them to really step up and them to be on that Matthews Marner type of level. But I think the Maple Leafs will recover. I think the Oilers and the Leafs are going to have a very, very tight race all the way until the end to claim that first place spot in the North Division. I think even Winnipeg, if they make some moves here at the deadline, I believe they can be a team to be reckoned with here in this North Division. You know, they did lose the couple games against the Edmonton Oilers, which was huge for the Oilers to get that kind of space away from the Jets. And I'll send this one over to Mark, because I just seen the Jets just went up 2-0 against the Canucks. So he could add a little bit onto that game and the Maple Leafs as well.
Yeah, I really don't have a lot, to be honest, to add on about the Maple Leafs. You know, like I've said, just generally, I think, you know, it was like early in the season, Montreal. I had people that are very passionate about Montreal, you know, sending me screenshots and, you know, haha, look at this. Well, you know, careful how much one gloats, because, you know, there's a lot of runway still even now in the season. And I mean, there's going to be, you know, ups and downs. And, you know, I really don't have a lot to add about Toronto other than, you know, they don't have anything locked up. I mean, you know, this division, like I've said so many times, even on my feature on PCM, I mean, every game, this is so unusual. I was trying to rack my brain, and you guys would have no recollection, but this is going back to like the early, I'm going to say even the early 90s, when before they divided all the different divisions, and they had like the old Smythe division, and they had different divisions, and Vancouver was like Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, but you still didn't have, you were fighting, all you could do was get in as a divisional there were so many teams in the division, kind of like this. 4 teams got in, and there was always arguments about teams that missed, even though they had more points than other teams elsewhere in the league, or et cetera. But there, even you weren't every game, you weren't playing a potential team that you could steal a playoff spot from. Like, this is what's so unusual this year, is that you've got, and every team is facing this throughout this league because of the way they've had to craft it, is that every game you're playing is against someone in your division. That means every game you're playing, potentially you're losing points or grabbing points from someone that you could overtake in the playoff race. And that's where I'm saying, like Toronto and any of these teams, there's nobody that's got, unless Toronto or any of the other teams were like another 10 points ahead in the standings right now, nobody has anything locked up right now. Nobody. And like right now, like you mentioned, yeah, it's 2-0. It looks right now it's going to be a real push for Vancouver to get anything out of this game tonight, and that might just be how this one goes. But you know, it's just ups and downs. And as far as Toronto, it's the same thing. I mean, they've had a pretty good run, and I don't think you can expect a team to continue at, you know, whatever piece they may have been at. Let's just say something like 700% or something. I mean, you know, it's just not realistic necessarily. Can it happen? Yeah, but is it realistic? No. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out, because like I say, there's still a lot of games or a lot of runway left for all the teams, even with the discrepancy with Vancouver having so many more games played. Like we say, it's all going to even out, and we'll just have to see how this plays out over the next. I mean, it's weird. There's going to be, you know, a full month of games in April, and then a little bit into May before we even get to the playoffs. So there's still a lot left here before we're all said and done.
Yeah, a lot left, to say the least, for the hockey season. And I'm excited to watch many more games over this next month and get into the playoffs, which I'm super excited about. But that will be it for today's episode. We're going to just quickly get into the final thoughts for everyone. We'll send it off to Calvin on his final thoughts. And Calvin, take her away.
I've aired out most of my grievances this podcast, so most of my questions were left out there already. So I'm just going to say, I mean, as I've been saying every week, can this team find their damn consistency? Will it happen? Hopefully it does, because maybe I'll start watching them. I've kind of given up on the season. There's only 20 games left-ish. It's going to be tough. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough stretch for Calgary, and we'll have to see. I mean, the last time that we talked, we were hoping that they would have. They didn't. They kind of went 500 during that time. So let's hope that Calgary has a better April than what they had in March. So we'll send it over to Calvin, or Mark, I meant, on his final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, just to reiterate what I've already said, I mean, I want to be like the old terminology broken record. I mean, it's from a Vancouver standpoint, tonight looks like less than an ideal game, but Vancouver's had a lot of challenges with Winnipeg. I mean, Winnipeg, just for tonight's game, as this will be history by the time this airs, but I mean, they just jam things up. They're up 2-0. There's still over 14 minutes left in the third, but now it looks like Horvat may be at least temporarily out. He blocked a shot, or got hit by a shot in the attacking zone. So, you know, it's just, that's the ups and downs. And unfortunately, what may come down for Vancouver is if this doesn't come together for them and they don't make it into the postseason. And again, 3 good teams. I mean, even if you want to include Ottawa on that, they're all, quality teams of varying degrees, are going to miss the playoffs. And it's going to come back to, I mean, Vancouver's atrocious start. They burned away so many points, and it may just be too much to recover, because if other teams don't have those same disastrous, collapses, well, that's going to be the difference. And so we'll just have to see. You're not going to win all the games. Vancouver's had a pretty good run right now, but the question is, can they overcome the hole that really they put themselves in by allowing other teams to build? 2 or 3 more wins earlier in the season puts them, into the playoff bracket and not, scraping to chase 3 other teams ahead of them just to get to 4th. So we'll have to see how it comes down. Anything is possible realistically. Realistically, it's possible, and we'll just have to see.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see how the rest of this month goes, and especially for Oilers, we've been doing great, and I hope that we are able to win these next couple of games against the Canadians, and especially the Leafs as well. We got a lot of hockey coming up for the Oilers. We're going to be getting right up to the 40 mark, or 39 mark, right up before we head into April. So a lot of games to come here for the Oilers, which is just going to be nuts. I'm excited for it, though. But thank you for all listening to another episode of your PCM Hockey Podcast. Thanks to Mark and Kelvin for hopping on and having another great podcast talking about tons of stuff. As we're going to end things here. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you guys all later. Adios, amigos.